Hello and welcome to Answer Writing. Today we will be discussing how to write proper academic answers because many of the times we have seen that we know the things, we were well prepared, but we could not express properly. And since we could not express properly or we could not address the requirement of the questions, we got less marks or we were not evaluated properly or so many things more which happens to students or anybody for that matter. So this module or this lecture is basically on answer writing and from an academic point of view, right? So we will see that what are the things which we need to remember, what are the things which we have to do, and how to plan properly so that when we are writing answers, not only that our preparation matters, but also our performance, right? So let us start with answer writing. Now, there can be a lot of types of questions, right? So first, let us have a brief overview of the types of questions. The first type of question which you will find in say question papers or any kind of examination are basically objective types, right? So objective type questions, if you see, are one of the most popular type of questions which you will find in the examination. Now, I'm not talking about MCQs or the so-called multiple choice questions, right? Because there you do not have to write anything. But there are sometimes questions which are like you need to write a sentence or two for a question. And in that case, many a times what happens is that you feel like that since it was a 1 mark question or it was just a 2 marks question and we need to write a couple of things, but still we were not awarded properly, right? Or we could not score fully. Now, what is the reason behind it? Now, the first thing is that if it is an objective type question, you need to be very clear and you need to assert, right? Now, if you understand the difference between a sentence and a statement, an answer, an objective type question's answer has to be a statement. Now, what is a statement? If you remember, a statement is either an assertion or a denial, right? It is basically a declarative sentence. It is different from exclamatory or interrogatory sentences, right? So you need to be very, very clearly asserting that, look, this is the case or this is not the case, suppose. So given that, because you need to write it very straight and clear, if suppose you are using certain things like maybe or you are not very sure of or something like that, so usually marks are deducted. Or sometimes the language, the grammar, the so many things others which are the part of a language also play a part, and because of that you are graded a little bit less. So this is the easiest part. In fact, everybody knows about it, but still I wanted to make this thing very clear that you need to write a statement, right? You cannot go for just a sentence which was not a statement. So that is the thing which we should understand. Now let us start with two types of questions. You can divide them into short questions and you can divide them into long questions, right? So we usually find that there are two types of questions in our question papers, right? Or sometimes if you are taking, say, any competitive examination like IELTS and so on, TOEFL for that matter, so you will find that there are questions like that. So what are the expectations and how to write these questions? Now, you will find that among short questions, there is a type of question which we call as notes, right? Like write short notes on this. So they will also specify the word limit, say 50 or 100 words, and you have to write a note. So what are notes basically? Notes are basically descriptions, right? Or notes are certain things which are explaining something. You need not be very critical about it, or you need not be very you need not express your point of view. Rather, you have to be very clear with this understanding that whatever has been asked, you have covered it fully. That is the whole idea. But since it's a 50 word or 100 words 50 words 100 words answer, so not many students find it very difficult, right? And usually these are also very scoring. Like you see that objectives are usually very scoring. Similarly, short questions are also very scoring because most of the students will find it easier to deal with these kind of questions. However, if you are hampered or if you have some serious problem with language or expression and so on, so it can be a little bit traumatic, right? But then practice and make those things very clear with yourself. So that is the idea. So notes is something which is easy to deal and which students do not find very difficult, and they usually manage these questions well. Now, there are a couple of types of more questions which usually come under the short category. If I explain what are short questions, so let us try to understand that it will be from 50 to say 200 words. I will call them as short questions, and for long questions I will call it like say from 250 to say 1000 words. Sometimes even some questions requirement are 1000 words, right? So these are some essay type of questions. We will be discussing that as well in the long question part. Let us continue with the short questions. Now in short questions, you can find another type of question which is called as comment. Now what are comments, right? Remember, if we are watching a football match or we are watching a cricket match, so the commentator is not only telling us that okay, this is the runs and this is the number of wickets which has fallen, say in a cricket match, or in football match that okay, the score is leveled at 0-0 right now, but rather the commentator is also commenting about a lot of things, that how the play is going on, what are the things which will happen and so on. These are basically opinions, if you see, because the commentator is there to comment, right? It is not a description. It is rather an opinion which is expressed. Now, what happens in a question like comment is, like suppose you are given a statement, like X is a statement, right? And then you are asked to comment on that. Now, you can either go in favor of that statement or you can go against. Like suppose if I say that online classes are better than say offline classes. Now, you can take both the point of views. You may feel like the online classes are better than offline classes. You may also feel like the offline classes were far better than the online classes. It depends on you. So you need to comment on that. You need not explain what are online classes. Okay, you may explain it in a couple of sentences, that what are online classes and what is the difference between online and offline classes. But then you need to clarify that whether you accept that statement, that means you are in favor of it, or you reject that statement completely because you are against it, and for that you need to give reasons, right? So that is called as a comment question, right? Now, vis-a-vis, if you will see, there is another type of question which says critically comment. Now, what is a critically comment question? Here you do not have, like in comment question, you have the freedom to choose between whether you will like to go in favor of that statement or you will like to go against it. But when it comes to critically comment, you need to go against the statement. That is the idea, because if you do not take this into consideration, then it will be a problem, right? Because every time there will be a question of critically comment, you have to be very clear with this idea that look, I need to clearly go against the notion. Like in debates, we say that you are for the notion or you are against the notion, right? So here you can go for or against. Here you have to go against. So that is the idea, that if there is a short question and it is asking you to critically comment on something, so you have to go against that idea. So you have to give all your reasons for not accepting that point of view which has been expressed in that line, right? Because there will be a statement, usually there will be a statement which says that okay, this is the thing, do you think or do you agree with this? So if you agree or if you disagree, you can go here. But if you disagree, this is a critical comment question, right? So in comment, you can go for, against. In critically comment, you have to go against. So that is the idea. So these are usually the short type of questions. There can be, it depends, because sometimes the word limits and this and that are very appropriately chosen for some kind of examination. You are also told beforehand that these are the type of questions which will come, and you need to prepare it like that. Like in some examinations, they will say that we need 100-word answers, right? 100 words answer. Sometimes they will say, no, we have the understanding of 200 words answers. So that is another idea. But in some examinations they will say that we need answers of 600 words. So that is also a type of examination, and for that you need to appropriately follow. So we will talk about it a little bit later, but usually in short questions this is the type of questions which will come. Now let us try to understand the long type of questions, that what happens in long type of questions. In long type of questions, like there is one type which is called as like explain or elaborate or describe, right? Or there can be another word like explicate. So these are basically long type of questions where you need to explain a lot. You need to explain the whole of the thing, what is its function, what are the things, and this and that, and so on. So all these things need to be taken care of. So these kind of questions require a lot of essay type understanding, that usually it will come somewhere around 400 words, 500 words, and so on. So you need to understand, you need to also, because in the later part of this lecture we will be discussing that how you need to write these answers and what are the things, but right now we are trying to understand the types of questions, right? So that was the idea. So this is like a very long type of answer. You need to describe a lot, you need to explain a lot about whatever is happening and this and that. You need to choose a lot of things in between and so on. So I will discuss those things, that what are the things which can make your answers look better or sound more convincing and so on. These are usually the long type of questions. Then there can be a question like explain the similarities and differences between things, right? Similarities and differences. Now this type of question also comes, so you need to discuss like, okay, there are two theories and these are the similarities in this and these are the differences in these, so you need to explain all those things, right? Now since most of us belong to science or engineering, and we have this idea of writing answers like, okay, we draw a line and we write it like this, that okay, this is theory A, this is theory B, and we are writing the similarities here and then say differences in another table and so on, and we feel that our answers are very well taken care of. Now it works in sciences, it works in engineering, but it does not work in humanities, social sciences, or any kind of descriptive understanding. Usually what teachers or examiners or evaluators of these field expect you is to write in paragraphs, right? So even if you need to explain that this and this are the similarities, so you need to conjoin them together and write it. Or if suppose this and this are the dissimilarities, so you need to say that here this is acceptable and here this is not acceptable. So these type of things you need to follow. Because if you are not following those things, if you are not bringing up those things, then they say that you do not have expression, or you do not have proper expressive understanding, or your understanding is limited, or your answer was not convincing, or this is not a humanities type answer, or this is not a social sciences types answer, and so on. So that is the idea, that whenever you are writing for academics and especially for humanities and social sciences, so you need to be very paragraph oriented person. You cannot write it in points, you should not write it in points for that matter, and you should not also draw tables basically to explain the similarities and differences. Rather, you can make small paragraphs to explain that these are the similarities, these are the similarities, these are the similarities. Similarly, these are the differences, these are the differences, these are the differences. So that gives a far more better touch to the answer. So that is also an expectation from faculty members, or say evaluators or examiners who are going to evaluate your say answer sheets and so on. So this is one type of thing. Then there is a question like discuss. This is also a very familiar and very I will say popular type of question, right? So discuss the something of something. Now in these questions, what basically are the expectations is that every paragraph should have a discussion. Now let us try to understand what's a discussion. or a debate for that matter. Like, consider there are two people who are discussing about something. So one person is taking the favor of something, the other person is going against it. So you need to put the point of views of both those persons together. Like, it's like X is in favor of this theory and he or she is giving you arguments for say the theory A. Now Y is against that theory A, and he or she is giving you arguments against the theory A. So on this point they disagreed, then on this point they disagreed, on this point they disagreed, and with that you come out with the conclusion. So the whole idea is that you need to make it more, discussion oriented. Among, say, like, if you see Plato, Plato was a very important philosopher, right? So Plato's, most of the expressions are basically called as dialogues, right? So most of the books, you will find a whole list of, big list of books, and they are called dialogues. And basically dialogues are like that because it's not a monologue, right? So there is a dialogue between two people and two people are discussing. So you need to see, or you need to understand that a point of view is expressed, then the point has been, say, challenged, then again a point of view is expressed, then again that point has been challenged. So that argument, that whole process need to come. So these are basically very important questions, very familiar, popular type of questions, but usually we do not address them properly. And because we do not address them properly, so even if we write a lot, or say the examiner can also see that but then he or she will think that you do not know how to express, you do not know how to address. So these kind of problems comes, and because of that, because in humanities and social sciences, people will love to say that nobody get full marks. Why nobody get full marks? Because nobody actually writes properly. If you ask me, for that matter, that okay, write an answer on that. So if I will try my best and knowing all these things I will write, but when I will check, I will see, this question could have been better dealt, or this is not something which you have written properly, and so on. Because if I am very honest to myself, and which I am, I do not grade my answers more than 7 in 10, right? So 7.5, I feel like that it's much more than what I can give to a person. So usually that happens because when you are writing, you write and you remember a lot of things, right? I'm not talking about the online understanding where you have all the copies open, you are opening so many sheets and so many say windows and tabs, and you have also books and copies here and there, and you are checking and you can write. I'm not talking about that. But suppose if you are taking a conventional examination where you are remembering certain informations and after that you are writing it. So usually what happens is that I know the things maybe because I have remembered, and I know how to write the answer as well. But still when I write, there will be some lacunae. And since those lacunae are there, so nobody can be adjudged like, okay, this is perfect, 10 out of 10. Though it is the case that a lot of examiners and evaluators, including me, will love to give full marks, and we have already given full marks to a lot of students in a lot of questions because they wrote exemplary answers, right? But it happens very less. And moreover, it depends from one examiner to another examiner. Another examiner will say, look, there are certain problems over here and here and here, so maybe we may not be giving him or her full marks. So that is the idea. But the thing is that if you are scoring even 7.5, 8 in a scale of 10, and especially for full answer writings, so I think so that it's a very good score. Believe me, it's a very good score. Do not compare it with sciences or engineering where you can get full marks, right? Or logic for that matter, you can get full marks, right? But in humanities and social sciences, in subjects of philosophy or say economics or sociology or psychology, any of these subjects like languages and so on, you will find that nothing is perfect. It is closer to perfectness, but it's still not perfect. So people can reduce or deduce some marks. So we should not also take it like that way. And in fact, if you are scoring full marks in humanities and social sciences, anybody can question that what is it like, because this will become a joke that you have written perfect answers, right? So that also doesn't happen. Anyways, there can be questions like compare and contrast. These are also like questions like similarities and differences, but compare and contrast is usually the higher form, right? The higher form of answer writing. And what usually happens in these type of questions is that we explain something and keep on comparing and contrasting with certain other things, like we will be discussing once we will be going to that how you need to mold your answer perfectly. But these are certain things which you should remember, that compare and contrast and similarities and differences are more or less the same thing, but still it is on the higher plane precisely because you need to be very explicitly stating that what exactly is going here and what are the things which you have to manage here and so on. So those things, if you are managing it properly, so the answers are going to be pinpoint accurate, right? And you will get good marks for it. So these are usually the types of questions which you will find in short questions and long questions. And more or less, I will say that if you remember these things, this will suffice your requirement. So in this part of the lecture, I just discussed the types of questions. In next part of the lecture, what we will be discussing is that how to tackle these answer writings, right? So once we will be coming back to this lecture, we will see that how we are actually writing the answers.